It's the afternoon of June 18th, and this is another edition of Mike and Bike. Bright and sunny today. Let's pause here for a second. I forgot to tighten my cable on my headset. So today, I think we're in this episode, I'm gonna start talking about cell phones and my opinion on them and what I've chosen as my cell phone. So, I am a fan of Android phones. I really like the ability to kind of hack your phone, do things on it that you might, having control to do unsupported things. Hello? Yeah, and so other types of phones are much more controlled, other types of operating systems on smartphones anyway. So if you're an iPhone or Windows phones, they have much more security protections or that you can't really avoid in case you want to install unsigned applications and so on. Whereas on Android, you can get around all of those. There's a simple option to say you want to install an unsigned app. It also makes doing development easier. You don't have to worry about getting certificates. Hello. Nice basket. You have to worry about getting certificates to app stores and other things in order to do your Android development. And just on price, they're a lot better than alternatives. So they're similar, and all smartphones are kind of similar in functionality, user experience. But when it comes to price, Android wins. When it comes to flexibility and kind of hacking things, then Android wins there too. So, well, I've even enjoyed goofing around and installing different OSs, different versions of Android that are being created by the hacker community that have totally different look and feels and stuff like this. So that's kind of interesting. So, yeah, another advantage of Android over, say, Windows Phone is it does have a very vibrant app ecosystem, so you can get almost any app you want. It's available on Android, unlike Windows phones, which are much more limited in the number of apps that are available for them. So I do prefer Android phones. Now the next thing is, when it comes to Android phones, I prefer ones that have plain vanilla Android OS on it. I really don't put much stock in the extra values that Samsung or HTC or other vendors have in their software software add-ons they have for their phones. Most of it is kind of gimmicky and usually not all that useful. So I just prefer having stock Android. So if I was going to have, say, a Samsung device, I'd rather buy it from I'd prefer to buy it from the Google Play Store and get a version that comes only with standard Android, not with any of the Samsung add-ons. Another advantage to using standard Android is that it's easy to upgrade. I mean, if you're using a device that you get through Google Play Store, all of which come with standard Android, then you can get the updates to the OS as soon as they're available. You don't have to wait long periods of time for your vendor to do wonky customizations for their particular device. So I think you get much more prompt, or much prompter updates to the OS. So all that said, it should likely tip you off as to which phone I'm using. Yes, it's an Android phone, and I got it from the Google Play Store. So I'm using Google Nexus 5 phone, which is actually manufactured by LG. It has a very nice large display. It has high resolution 1080p. The camera is very good. And I've really liked it. It's worked out very well. Oh, the price is also excellent. It cost me $400 to get a 32 gigabyte version, which is just fantastic. And it's unlocked, so I can use it on any network I want. And it doesn't have any contract tied to it. So I really like that flexibility. So I've really enjoyed it. But one thing I don't like about it, or there's been like some quality issues that I've had. I ordered two to begin with, one for my wife and one for myself. And I found that the satellite, or the GPS satellite reception was not very good on my Nexus. And I downloaded an app that showed you the satellite signal strength, and my wife's was always showing much better than mine. This is right after we got it. Which led to issues with navigation, because it would sometimes say it couldn't see the satellite. So I sent it back, and they sent me a replacement, and it worked. The replacements worked fine. Although I still get these messages about it can't find the satellite sometimes, which is a bit of a drag, since I track all of I use an app to record the telemetry for all of my bike rides, and sometimes it misses some segments because it wasn't able to access the satellite. And so I wish that it was still a little better in its GPS, or the GPS antenna was better. My wife has also noticed on her phone that her Wi-Fi reception isn't as good as on mine. So it's like the Wi-Fi antenna on her phone doesn't seem... The Wi-Fi antenna on her phone seems to be somehow not as good. So there can be some issues. So besides choosing a phone, the other thing that we've done is selected a cell plan that we like. And what my wife and I have been using for years and continue to use on our Android smartphones is a prepaid plan with T-Mobile. So it costs us $100 to get 1,000 minutes. And when you charge When you buy those 1,000 minutes, they'll last for a year. And then whatever you haven't used at the end of a year, you lose. So far, I've never run out of my minutes by the end of the year. So I've always lost some of my minutes when the year is up and I have to recharge. So $100 a year is all I've been paying. Hello, for my cell plan for many years now. And I quite like that. Now, in order to do that, I pretty much only use my phone for brief calls. I'll make a call to say I'll be home late or where I am, but I never have conversations on my phone. I always will wait till I get somewhere before I have a conversation, which generally I find isn't that bad, because it's not the best thing to have long conversations on your phone while you're driving anyway. And when I am at my destinations, I can always use Wi-Fi, and almost everywhere I go has Wi-Fi these days. So I just use Skype to talk with people from the Skype app on my phone, and I use VoIP. And I do pay, I think something like $50 a year to get, well, it's $3 a month, sorry. I pay $3 a month to have unlimited calling in North America on Skype. So I can call normal phones from Skype, and I don't pay anything more than my $3 a month. And since I run Skype on my smartphone, that's what I use to do most of my calls. In December, I made a trip up to Canada to visit family, and I was up there for a week. And we even drove all through Alberta, and I had no problem keeping in touch with my family in the U.S. Basically, every time we'd stop at a McDonald's or Tim Hortons, while we were driving, I would just use Skype. I'd connect to the Wi-Fi network at the restaurant. I'd use Skype or WhatsApp to communicate with my family. So I never had to use any of my actual phone minutes to talk with anyone. And most of my relatives have Wi-Fi at their homes anyway, so I can, once I'm at their homes, I can use Wi-Fi there. So it's gone pretty well, not really worrying about a data plan and just keeping with prepaid service. Make a shortcut here to go through the light with the cars to get on the proper side of the road here, rather than going through all the crosswalks. So I haven't missed having a cell data service, and I don't do things like even like watching videos and stuff like that. I just download files to or upload them to my phone when I'm at home, or over USB, or even just over Wi-Fi, and then I can watch shows or listen to podcasts or MP3 files and so on while I'm driving or while I'm riding my bike or whatever. So I don't need to have streaming service to be streaming that. So that works out pretty well. Oh, there is another thing I don't like about my phone. One thing I don't like about my Nexus is that it doesn't have an SD card. I very much wish it had SD card support so I could have expanded storage capacity. When you're putting movies and audiobooks on there, it really takes up space. And I also use my phone to take videos. I mean, I videoed my daughter's orchestra performance just last week. I mean, it's a couple gigabytes in space, pretty fast. So it would sure be nice to be able to have an SD card where you could have many more gigabytes of space. And I know there's lots of cloud storage options and so on, but I don't want to store everything on the cloud, and the cloud isn't all that helpful if you don't have a data service. What are you going to do? Then now you're streaming your music or videos over the network just to watch them, which requires then that you'd have a data service. So it's really handy to be able to have lots of storage capacity on your phone for all that content that you want to be able to keep there. At least that I do. I think right now I have something like 500 This American Life episodes loaded on my phone that I've been listening to for the past couple of months, just working my way through. And I think that takes up like 12 gigabytes alone, just that. So as you can see or hear, it certainly helps to have a lot of as much storage capacity as you can get on your phone, at least the way I use them. Now, all that said, there's a significant possibility that my family will be switching to a T-Mobile family plan that has unlimited voice minutes, voice and texting, and data plan too. I think of 1 gigabyte with 4G a month per phone, and then unlimited 2G drops to that once you've used up your 1 gigabyte. And I think the reason we'll likely switch is because my wife's new work doesn't have any internet access, no Wi-Fi, nothing. So if she ever wants to see emails or whatever, she can't do it from her phone at work. Her previous job had Wi-Fi that she could use, but this new place doesn't. So, and if you're going to get it for one phone, get data service for one phone, it's a lot more, it's pretty expensive. If you get it for a whole family, if you have like 5 phones on this plan, it works out to $25 a month per phone, which isn't that bad. And so my extended family basically will be able to add 5 phones to the plan through the extended family. And so certainly a lot more than the $200 a year that my wife and I spend on our prepaid plan. Although in my wife's case, I think she does recharge. She doesn't, her minutes never last her a full year on her when she charges her phone with 1,000 minutes. She definitely is a little more talkative on the phone than myself. But it lasts her a good 6-7 months before she has to recharge. So my wife has been living on just $200 a year for a plan. Anyway, for $50 a month for both my wife and I to have a better plan with data usage, that's not all a bad thing. It'd be handy to use it for navigation, for example, on maps. The offline functionality that I use for Google Maps isn't that great. Although I really wish Google would improve their offline map capability and caching. They actually had better caching abilities in previous versions of Google Maps for Android phones. And their latest versions have actually removed some of their offline map functionality. Maybe they're just trying to force people to go to have data plans. So the other thing I might do, well, I'll certainly do with if we move to this T-Mobile family plan, is I would actually start having conversations on my cell phone instead of just using Skype all the time. I may even talk with people while I'm riding my bicycle. And in fact, I might start recording some conversations for the Mike and Bike show. Can have some interviews, kind of replace my old podcasting with YouTube videos where I have some conversations on various interesting subjects with people, history, economics, politics, whatever. All the same stuff that I gab about, and when all that you've been hearing me gab about in my Bike and Bike shows so far. I heard today that Amazon just announced a Fire phone, which I guess builds on their tablet devices that they've had for a while, with a phone. The details are a little sketchy, but I'm not so thrilled about it right now. Sounds like it's a highly customized version of Android that it uses, which I'm not fond of that. And it's really tied into Amazon services. It also can't use due to this customization, you can't use the regular Android App Store either. So those are all big dings. On top of that, it seems like the phone is only sold with AT&T phone contracts, which I have no interest in. And they don't seem particularly cheap either. One thing I saw said something maybe $200 for the phone and a 2-year contract. That's pretty crummy. I mean, my Nexus 5 cost $400 with no contract. And I'm positive that my monthly bills are way lower than what I'd be paying on AT&T. To be fair, I'm likely a terrible customer. I'm not the kind of customer that these Hello. I'm not the kind of customer that these phone vendors want. I don't buy much content. I don't use data services much. I'm not into video streaming or content streaming at all. Gotta tighten the strap on my shoe. It's gotten loose. I think the iPhones are nice devices, well designed, very attractive. I also think they're highly usable. And for people who aren't very technically savvy, they can likely use them quite well. Which, by the way, is usually the experience with the Amazon devices, with their Fire tablets and so on. It's very easy to go and find ebooks or content that you want from Amazon and play it on your device and buy it. I think Apple's done a very similar thing on the iPhone. They've really integrated iTunes into the whole experience. So for the unsophisticated, iPhones are likely pretty good. But if you're a little more comfortable with technology and you like more control over things, making your own decisions, I think the iPhone is not the best choice. They're also terribly expensive. I think it costs $700 or something to get an unlocked iPhone that doesn't require a plan. Hi. I did have a Windows phone I really liked at one point. It was the HTC HD2 running, it came with Windows Mobile. But the reason I really liked it is because it was cheap and pretty sophisticated for its generation. And there were great versions of Android you could load up on it. So I found some ROMs built by the hacker community, the Android hacker community, and wiped the Windows off of the phone and loaded up Android. It was a great Android phone. It was hard to beat that deal of price and functionality for getting a phone. I think some of the newer phones would be great too. Some of the newer Windows, or now the Amazon phone, if you could put a standard version of Android on it. I'll keep checking the Android hacker community sites to see if anyone comes up with ways to hack the phones and put an Android OS on it, or a standard Android OS. Then those phones might be interesting. They're growing well already. It's going to be a good crop. See ya. And that ends another episode of Mike and